Hello, back again on the Top Recap channel. This time I will tell a movie's entitled Black Sea. Let's get straight into the storyline. The story begins with Robinson, a veteran captain of underwater salvage, getting fired from his firm, Agora Marine Management, as the company no longer needs a submarine pilot. Robinson's manager feels genuinely sorry for him and offers a settlement of £8,640.
I've been working on submarines for nearly 30. I lost my family to this job.
Having no other choice, Robinson clears his desk and returns to his apartment. Robinson is recently divorced and separated from his young son. Desperate to reconnect, he tries to see his estranged family. Later, he spends time with his friends, Kirsten and Blackie, who were also let go from Agora. After being fired, Kirsten has fallen into depression and is now taking antidepressants. Robinson confides in his friends that he saw his 12-year-old son, Martin, outside his posh school. He feels heartbroken knowing that his son is being raised by another wealthy man, while his ex-wife, Chrissy, appears content without him. Unable to watch himself and his friends suffer any longer, Kirsten tells them he has a plan to make money.
I need you, Robinson. Needs a man like you. You could do it.
The scene switched to Robinson and Blackie meeting a mysterious man named Lewis at a lavish mansion. Lewis's executive, Daniels, explains to him the historical context involving Stalin, Hitler, and the disputes that followed the Russo-Georgian War. It turns out that during World War II, Stalin feared a German invasion. Hitler exploited this fear and demanded a loan from Russia in gold. Weeks later, when his demands were not met, Hitler broke the non-aggression pact and invaded. However, in the 1950s, rumors began to circulate that Stalin had, in fact, complied with the request. Allegedly, Stalin loaded 2 tons of gold onto a U-boat and sent it to Hitler. But since the gold never arrived, Hitler went through with the invasion. In the 1980s, an Oceanic Research Institute discovered a series of shallow ridges off the Georgian coast. Robinson explains that his firm found a U-boat on one of these ridges, believed to be the one that carried the gold. The U-boat had sunk off the coast of Georgia, but due to territorial disputes following the 2008 Russo-Georgian conflict, they were unable to salvage it. After hearing all the information, Lewis asks what role he could play in this. Robinson tells him he needs a submarine, which costs £180,000, and a crew, half British, half Russian. Lewis agrees to fund the expedition in exchange for a large share of the profits.
Okay.
Once the deal is confirmed, Robinson calls Kirsten to share the news. He and Blackie then begin assembling a misfit team for the mission. Just then, Daniels arrives and informs Robinson that Lewis has ordered him to accompany the expedition. Later, while preparing for the mission, Robinson tries calling Kirsten several times but gets no response. Soon after, he meets a young man named Tobin, who claims to be Kirsten's friend, and informs Robinson that Kirsten has taken his own life. Devastated, Robinson decides to bring Tobin along on the expedition.
You ever been to sea, son?
With the half-British, half-Russian crew now assembled, and each man promised an equal share of the profits, they are transported to the port of Sevastopol, Crimea. As per Robinson's request, they are provided with an antiquated Foxtrot-class submarine, then the only one in the Ukrainian Navy. While Robinson inspects the submarine's interior, the rest of the crew begins mingling.
Steel yard. Fault of people like you. Bankers.
Robinson gives the signal to start preparations, and the team gets to work.
Off. On. 100. Hydraulics operational.
Daniels, who is claustrophobic, panics upon discovering that the submarine has no escape shafts. The rest of the crew mock him for his fear.
Laughing at you, don't even speak English.
Meanwhile, Blackie informs Robinson that the Russian crew members believe Tobin is a bad omen because they assume he is a virgin. Robinson dismisses the superstition and gathers the crew to address them. He tells them they are setting out to recover treasure, gold worth $40 million. He makes it clear that after Lewis takes a 40% cut, the remaining profit will be equally divided among the crew.
Is ours.
Остальное наше.
Equal share, every man.
Все делим пополам.
Later, Daniels protests, saying that Robinson should have paid the crew a flat fee instead of an equal share. Robinson, however, insists that everyone deserves an equal cut since they are all risking their lives.
And there is less people.
The submarine finally sets off. Zaitsev, a Russian crew member, and the engine mechanic mistreats Tobin when the latter offers to help. Blackie informs Robinson, who sends a firm message. Either Zaitsev works with Tobin, or he gets off the sub.
Tell Zaitsev to work with Tobin or get the fuck off my boat.
Blackie relays the message and explains the workings of the engine's valves to Tobin. Tensions rise as the British crew mocks the Russians, insulting their food and culture. Language barriers and cultural differences only worsen the atmosphere. Robinson notices Tobin spending a lot of time staring at his phone and asks about it. Tobin reveals that he's about to become a father. Robinson reassures him that, once they return, he'll be a rich man and will have no trouble providing for his child. Baba, the Russian piloting the submarine, spots a Russian sub on their path and narrowly avoids detection after a tense moment.
Скал. Бабай ты мой золотой.
Meanwhile, the Russian crew continues to harass Tobin.
Это наша сторона.
Eventually, the sub reaches the U-boat's location.
We're right on top of the U-boat.
Zaitsev informs Blackie about a gas leak that needs fixing.
Some of you boys, they have funny idea about money.
Robinson then discovers that the Russian crew believes they are entitled to a larger share of the gold. He confronts them and finds out they've been using the radio against his explicit instructions. Furious, he destroys the radio and reiterates that every man will get an equal share. Anyone who disagrees can leave the sub.
Any man endangering this vessel goes out the fucking tubes.
Fraser, a British crew member who has been itching to reduce the head count, takes this opportunity to act. When Blackie asks him to hand over his knife, Fraser stabs him in the chest. Things take a tragic turn when Blackie stumbles into a bucket of diesel, which catches fire and causes an explosion that cripples the submarine. The scene switches to Robinson dreaming about his ex-wife and son. It turns out that he was knocked unconscious during the explosion. As he wakes up, he's stunned to see two burnt corpses, one of Blackie and the other of Gittins, a British crew member. The British crew tells Robinson that he has been out for 18 hours, during which the Russians had gone wild. They had to be threatened with a flare gun to hold them off. Now, one half of the boat is taken over by the Russians, and the other half by the British. The British berated Fraser for destroying the mission and risking everyone's lives. Having no other choice but to make amends with the Russians, Robinson tries to communicate with the Russian crew member, Morozov.
What are you saying?
I can make this boat work.
Robinson explains to Morozov that since their sub's drive shaft has been destroyed, they can use the drive shaft of the submarine lying on the seafloor. Since the sonar scans indicate that they are close to the old U-boat, they can salvage it and use the drive shaft on their own submarine. Morozov emphasizes that the sub is no longer capable of sailing, so Robinson informs him that they only want to bring the sub to the surface. After that, the crew will get onto the life rafts. He then requests Morozov to get Baba and Zaitsev back to work, as they are needed desperately. Later, Robinson asks Fraser and Peters to put the corpses in the tubes and eject them into the Black Sea. Robinson appoints Fraser and Peters to traverse the seabed, but Fraser demands to send one more diver. While no one wants to volunteer, Tobin agrees to dive, as he has scuba training.
Do that up. Only got enough oxygen to do this once. Make it count.
The three of them set out to navigate the seabed. After stepping into the water, Tobin is scared, but Fraser helps him breathe and assures him that they will get back safely.
Stop fucking wheezing in my ears, Peters.
What's the seabed like?
It's like butter made of dog shit.
While traversing, Tobin flips out after coming across Blackie's body floating in the sea. After combing through the depths, Fraser is elated to find the wreck of the U-boat. Upon entering the sunken ship, the divers are stunned to see the skeletons of the dead crew. Fraser finds the drive shaft and realizes that it is almost identical to their subs. He and Tobin try to recover it. Further into the ship, Fraser finds the gold and is more than happy about it. When Lovchenko pulls the drive shaft, he tells Robinson that it is too heavy.
Lovchenko say trolley pulling at nearly 4 tons.
Robinson quickly realizes that the divers have also retrieved the gold and are bringing it back on the trolley. Daniels tells Robinson that the drive shaft is more important than the gold, and the divers should drop the gold.
Robinson, get rid of the gold.
Can you keep it coming, Fraser?
However, Robinson does not listen and tells the divers to keep coming. Midway, the divers lose Peters after he falls down a trench and his air hose is accidentally severed. Finally, Fraser and Tobin recover the drive shaft along with the gold and return to the sub. When the crew decides to resume their journey, Daniels protests and insists on going up.
Right, okay.
Having no other choice, Daniels reveals to Robinson that he works for Agora, who had set Robinson up. It turns out that Agora deliberately leaked the U-boat's location to them via Kirsten so that they would recover the gold, allowing Agora to claim it after the men are arrested by the waiting Russian Navy under maritime law. Robinson does not believe Daniels, as he trusts Kirsten and can't imagine he would step into a trap. But Daniels reveals that Kirsten was paid $30,000 to leak the information and that he is still alive. Robinson is shocked by this revelation and struggles to process it. When Robinson informs the rest of the crew, they lose their minds and desperately rush to kill Daniels. However, Robinson stops them and decides to remain submerged. Instead of traveling east, he suggests traveling south to soon, Turkey. At first, the crew protests, but after Robinson lifts their spirits with a moving speech, they agree to take the risky journey to Turkey.
Who get ours to make them fucking rich? Half a day. And lads, that gold, all of it's ours now. All of it's ours.
They begin placing the drive shaft in place, and Morozov counts the gold bars. Robinson estimates the value of the gold, around $448,000 per bar.
182,448,000.
Later, Daniels, desperate for rescue, convinces Fraser that the shaft is not going to last and that they are all going to die.
All right here?
After making the necessary repairs, the sub resumes the journey smoothly.
Let's get moving.
Robinson and the crew are elated to finally get the sub moving. Soon, the sub reaches the shallows, and when Baba realizes they're about to hit rocks, he alerts the crew just in time to stop the sub.
Emergency full! Full! Full of stern port! Now!
Robinson then realizes that there is a narrow trench they must pass through to reach Turkey. When Morozov and Fraser advise against it and suggest aborting the plan, Robinson threatens them with a gun for disobeying orders and commands everyone to return to their posts. The sub resumes the journey through the narrow trench. Meanwhile, Daniels keeps telling Fraser that the ship is run by 9 men and that he should kill one so the rest can be rescued. He keeps persuading Fraser that Robinson's plan will get everyone killed, urging him to kill Zaitsev and save the others. Halfway through the trench, persuaded by Daniels, Fraser murders Zaitsev by smashing his head with a wrench multiple times. Soon, due to a lack of adequate crew to operate the ship, it starts losing control. Robinson loses his temper after discovering that Daniels convinced Fraser to kill Zaitsev. Just when Robinson is about to shoot Daniels, a second explosion takes place, sending the sub back to the seafloor and piercing its hull. Robinson urges the crew to repair the hole, but Tobin is knocked unconscious by the fierce water pressure. Robinson rushes Daniels inside to help, leaving Fraser to repair the leaks. However, realizing the leak cannot be repaired, Fraser and the remaining crew try to return to the compartment, but the selfish Daniels locks the bulkhead, leaving 3 of them to drown. Meanwhile, Robinson gives Tobin CPR and helps him regain consciousness. On the other hand, Daniels traps himself in the next compartment with his torn clothing. Although he begs Morozov to help him, Morozov closes the final bulkhead, leaving Daniels to die. He then arrives in the final torpedo section, protecting Tobin and Robinson.
The sub is gone. All men dead.
Realizing there is no way out, Robinson reveals that he has hidden 3 escape suits in the section. He gives Tobin and Morozov the suits and asks them to evacuate.
Put it on.
Before sending Tobin out, he wishes him good luck for his soon-to-be-born son and explains that he will follow in the 3rd suit.
You 2 go. Someone needs to equalize the pressure.
You be there for him. Your boy.
Using an emergency lever, Morozov and Tobin reach the sea surface. Morozov then informs Tobin that there is no emergency lever and that Robinson has chosen to sacrifice himself to save the 2 of them.
No.
Tobin is unable to believe it. Soon, a 3rd suit surfaces. Thinking it is Robinson, Tobin approaches it, only to find it full of gold bars and a picture of Robinson's family. The film ends with Tobin and Morozov stunned at the sight of gold in the escape suit.